Let's get into it. For someone who doesn't know, perhaps this is their first time watching, right? And they're seeing you for the first time. Just very quickly to find out who Robin is and how you got to the place that you are at right now.
I'd say being yourself for a living is the good place to start and finish. That's my brand. That's my message. I studied psychology, which was getting to know the self, getting to know the individual. And then I worked in corporate human resources in the 90s. And that was the world of work, performance, the future of work. And I had this epiphany in the mid-90s that I needed to go out and do my version of the truth, which was to live my purpose through my business. So I set out, and I've been helping the world do exactly that as the route to the new humanity ever since.
I love it. I love it. And you say that mindset is a huge thing in just every individual's life as we go on about our day-to-day businesses and doing our own things, But someone could say that, look, Robin, I don't think that a whole lot of us are aware of ourselves. Yes. And I also resonate with that statement, that I don't think a whole lot of individuals in society, just in general, are aware of who they are fully and are aware of how they function in society on a day-to-day basis. How does one get to a point where they're fully cognizant of their actions, the things that they say, and everything else that encompasses their day-to-day lives?
Yeah, you say mindset. I mean, that's something you choose every day, is your mindset. But it's really a lot deeper than that. It's heart and soul. It's the whole being. The mind is just part of it. So your mindset is something you can manage every day. But your deeper purpose is something that you choose to follow. And sometimes we need to be knocked off our course and awakened to our deeper selves. Sometimes we can do it deliberately and consciously. But when you follow your purpose and you understand what's happening in the world, this awakening that's happening to all of us, through a lot of hardship, because you've got to let go of the old.
Absolutely.
Then when you're on course, then your mindset is easier to manage. And the difficulties are also easier to manage because you know where you're going.
I see. So, I mean, you are someone who's tackled this in the form of writing.
Yes.
Now, which is, I mean, what we've seen in life is that we experience things in very different ways, right? And our perspectives and our ideas of the worldly things that we get to experience on a day-to-day basis stem from different ways of understanding and comprehension. And someone like myself, who I value myself, or I see myself as an auditory learner. I fancy myself as someone who responds to hearing more than reading. Of course, I can understand and comprehend from reading, but there are visual learners out there, and someone would resonate with the power of writing. How do you feel, or what do you think the power of writing can help a day-to-day Tom, Dick, and Harry in their ordinary life as they are going about their lives, going to work or with friends or with family and all of those sorts of things?
Yeah, so we all have different intelligences, different orientations. Some people are visual, some people are musical, some are mathematical, some have an aptitude for engineering. So you've obviously got to work with what works for you and not try and force yourself into a system like school does. Puts you in rows and tells you to conform. But at the same time, I think writing is a very universal thing. And your guest you had on earlier, sort of, you put her on the spot and asked her about reading. And she said, she was a bit self-judgmental and said she's a bit lazy when it comes to that. So I think your first point about knowing your orientation is one thing. But writing for me, it's the best practice for, like you say, knowing yourself. If you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do is just write everything that comes to mind. Let it all flow out. Not even journaling, not even that structured, just flow, free flow. It sorts through all your dreams and your shadows that you've woken up with and gets all of that stuff out of the way. And just taking some time, 20 minutes a day to be still, maybe more if you can. Lots of solitude is how you get to know yourself. And I've not found a better tool for that, for self-discovery, but also for refining your skill of communication than writing.
Definitely. I really resonate with the refining your skill of articulating yourself and
That's
expressing
it.
yourself ultimately, because I think a whole lot of us do struggle with that, even in just articulating your feelings and your
Exactly.
emotions and your thoughts, where you would be asked a simple question as to, Robin, how are you feeling?
Yeah, exactly.
Or how are you doing? And a whole lot of us would respond in a normal way and think, no, I'm good, I'm okay, I'm not too bad, but when we try to get to the core of it, a lot of us struggle with tapping or getting in touch with our true innate selves as to how you're actually doing in life with all of the struggles that each of us has.
Yeah.
So I love that, refining the skill of self-expression ultimately. So let's now try to talk about the power of writing just in general, like you mentioned. How does one get to a point where they make it a usual thing or an often thing or a regular thing, where when I wake up in the morning, I try to jot down all of these things that I'm thinking, the things that I've dreamt of? Because someone might, like you mentioned now, view it as journaling.
Yes.
And journaling, we're taught that it comes with a certain style. You have to have a certain level of vocabulary. Your day-to-day speech patterns have to be at a certain level and a certain standard. How do I now get to a point of comfortability with myself, of saying I'll wake up, or at the end of my day even.
Also the end, yes.
At the end of my day, before I get to bed, I'll write down what I went through, what happened in my life. How do I get to a point of comfortability with that?
I think start with the comfort, because we're all conditioned into doing it the outside way. School, we mentioned already. And that creates resistance in us, because as kids, we just play naturally and we communicate naturally.
Yes.
And then we build up these barriers of how we think we should behave or what's expected of us. So the way writing for me works is just to do it naturally all the time, wherever you're at. You could be in a taxi on the way to work in the morning. I write on my phone. I've written 20 books on my phone, probably more.
Really?
Since smartphones
The
came
introduction
about.
of smartphones,
And I had my camera and my writing device in my pocket. That mobilized me. And I write all the time. So even when I'm just on my own, or even with people, if it's appropriate, I'll jot things down on my phone. So if you're just constantly in tune and constantly putting it down, being in that flow means that everything just comes to you all the time. When you need it, it's there. But even when you don't realize that you need it, it's flowing. And then you craft that. Make that effort to improve it all the time. Then you improve as a person, and you improve as a value-adding person where you're working. And you're constantly growing, you're constantly getting better at everything. And it's an incremental thing. And it's the most satisfying thing as you start to master that craft. There's nothing like it.
Sheesh, man. I'm resonating. Like I told you off camera when you got here this morning, that a whole lot of the things that you discussed with TC, I resonated with a whole lot of those. And the reason for that is I really do fancy myself. And I'm someone who really, really puts in a lot of work into how I put myself out into the world, right? The things that I say, how I say them, when I say them. The one thing that I still do keep to this day from school, from English class, I remember very well, was the 5 W's and an H. And for me, the H is what stands out mostly. Is that, and we were talking about it here in studio yesterday after the show, is that in more than most cases, people don't necessarily remember the things that you say to them, but how you made them feel.
Right.
Do you get what I'm trying to say? Yeah. And that's where the how aspect for me comes in. How did you make me feel? Walking away from our engagement and our experience of each other, how did it make me feel? And that's questions like, how are you feeling? How are you doing in life are very important. So now someone is listening to Musi and Robin and is saying, look, man, Robin, I'm hearing all of these things that you're saying, and you're saying that it's an incremental thing, and over time it will be a beneficial thing for you, right? But now let's talk about the value of it, because someone might be watching and listening to the two of us saying, I hear you guys, you're working on yourselves and you're writing and you're doing all of these things for self-growth and self-improvement, right? But I don't see the value in it. How do I now find value in documenting or in trying to write down and jot down all of the experiences that I go through in life? How do I navigate that space of the value in it?
Well, I'd say don't worry about the value too much. Just enjoy it. Give yourself a break. do it naturally, and do it as a personal growth exercise, a relationship with yourself. So if it's part of your life, then it's there, it's integrated, the value will reveal itself. The second thing then is to apply it. And there are very few jobs out there that don't require communication.
Absolutely.
In other words, jobs that you can add value to by improving your writing. If you just said, I mean, even on social media, you can follow one of the dictionary pages and they bring up a new word every day. Just learn one word every day.
I mean, this is what we do on a day-to-day basis.
And then use that word 2 or 3 times during your day so that you integrate it into who you are.
Yes.
And then when you talk, you become a source of information
and knowledge,
insight, wisdom, and those are layers of complexity there. It's not just the knowledge, it's that testimony to the wisdom that you've gained, and then you're able to express yourself in a specific way that makes people attracted to you and your personal brand. And the ultimate way to actually then grow that is to practice it on the job and constantly improving what you do and what you deliver on a day-to-day basis. And the ultimate way then is to write a book along the way, because that becomes the backbone of your life, of your growth. And ultimately when that book comes out, you're launching your brand.
Yes, I love that. I love that, because what we do on a day-to-day basis, we have a segment called Word of the Day.
Okay.
And, I always say that this word is aimed at both you and I improving our day-to-day spoken languages and ultimately our vocabularies. And if you have a high-functioning level of spoken language and vocabulary, it gives you quite a huge sense of confidence, yes, absolutely, and expression. You are not afraid to walk into spaces and articulate yourself and tell people, this is what I do, this is what I'm about, or this is what this means. And and it gets you to a point where your confidence is unmatched now. When you walk into the rooms, it exudes off of you. But now, as we're talking about that, walking to these different spaces that we're involved in, comes a sense of being in positions of leadership now.
That's right.
So how do we encompass or include the power of writing in each of us in leadership positions now? Because everyone fancies themselves as being a leader in whatever space, or they can have leadership skills in them in whatever space they're involved in. So how do I navigate that? How do I go about saying the power of writing will help me in this way when I get to a position of leadership?
Well, I would say, to me, there are 2 levels of leadership. There's the traditional kind where you can read up on it and do an MBA on it. And so even, you get the most thorough leadership education, you're still conforming when you do that.
Really?
Well, that's leadership as it's been studied, and how your boss does it, and of course how you sculpt yourself into being a traditional leader in a sort of mainstream sense. But a true leader to me is somebody who has their authentic voice and brings that to bear with a sense of vision. Because there you're a change agent. And if you're aware of yourself and you're able to express yourself in writing and speaking, because the 2 are very similar, in some ways they're quite different, and in some ways fundamentally they're the same. If you craft yourself and your capacity through your writing, you automatically become a better speaker as well. And if you look at, there are great speeches over history that have changed humanity.
Absolutely.
Those are pieces of writing that were also spoken. So if you really honor yourself and honor your voice and honor your craft of expressing yourself, you keep making a greater difference to the world.
How it resonates for me, and I love how you touch on some of the greatest speeches that we've had in history, right? One that comes to mind is I Am an African. Of course, the famous one is South Africa by Thabo Mbeki. The other very famous one is by Martin Luther.
I was thinking of him.
I
Have a Dream.
I Have a Dream,
But another one would be I'll Be Back.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter if English isn't your first language.
Absolutely.
Make it work for you. Now, Schwarzenegger tells a famous story where went from bodybuilding into acting.
Yes.
And he was, all the naysayers said to him, that he'll never get anywhere.
Couldn't be done. And he became the governor even.
Well, then he went on beyond even his acting career and made it all work for him. So whoever you are and whatever you've got where you are now, make that work for you. Trust the placement of who you are, where you are at this time, And just, for me, if you give me 20 words in a language, I'll write you a poem.
Oh, man.
Just make what you've got work for you. And even if you've got quirks and even if you've got unique things about you, don't let the outside determine who you are. You decide who you are and bring that to bear. And that's the journey of being yourself for a living.
Yeah, I love that so much. I'm resonating, man, Robin. I'll tell you. The other one that comes to mind, and my brother taught me this. I was quite young, I think. I was in primary. I think I was in the 5th or 6th grade. And I watched Aquila and the Bee for the first time. And Lawrence Fishburne's character teaches K.K. Palmer's character, the famous one by, I forget the poet lady. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate.
Marianne Williamson.
Yes. And then the second time around when I came across it was with Samuel Jackson, Coach Carter. Okay. One of the basketball players in a scene says that to him, that our deepest fear is that we're inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond our measures, and it stayed with me to this day. And so how I brought it in the spaces that I'm involved in, because I'm a singer first and foremost, and I got to a point of conducting and directing music.
Okay.
And how I teach when I'm teaching even the simplest of songs is that before we sing the song, you have to understand the context of it first. You can't sing, absolutely. You can't sing it without understanding what it talks about. So first, try to read it as a piece of writing, because when this person was writing the song, it was aimed at expressing their thoughts.
Yes.
It was a conversation between 2 or more people. In some cases, it is a prayer. So when you understand, and this is how I teach it, and someone else could disagree with me, and absolutely they're in their right? But how it makes sense for me is first read it as a piece of writing and context, and then you'll get to a level of understanding what this person was trying to relay through singing and music and all of those things, man. So let's talk about now clarity. How the connection between clarity and leadership. Now, how do I infuse my level of leadership through my getting to a point of self-awareness and getting to a level of leadership that is unmatched, and clarity now. How do I make it clear for those who are following me, those who are listening to me, that this is what I want, this is how I want it to work, and this is how I want us to move forward?
There's so much in there. Musi, that thing of music. I'm also a drummer, so
nice.
Drumming is very similar to writing in a sense, because you've got to get the skill going so that you can actually be present and let the music come through you.
Yes.
Being a singer as well, you've got to understand the song, but then when you're eventually delivering that song, you've almost got to get out the way so that this higher knowing, this higher moment can speak through you.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's what a leader does as well. A leader is somebody who's able to take people places, often new places. And to do that, you've got to be a master of your craft and aware of yourself, but you've also got to be able to get out of your own way and allow higher intelligence to speak through you. So that's what my books, like my Insights books, they are written in a state of where when insight drops, it's like a higher awareness. You're going through your day to day, maybe your mind is cloudy, and suddenly there'll be a moment of insight. I grab those moments and I write them down.
Wow.
And then it takes the reader into that space of, even if you just pick up the book, you're going to feel that energy. And then you can read one line in it, or you could read one paragraph or one chapter, and all of that will put you in touch with something. And that's what leadership is about. That's what music's about. That's what about putting people in tune with themselves and a higher purpose, and that's where we're all going, is into a new humanity where we're more conscious, creative, and enterprising. Being yourself for a living.
I love that. Being yourself for a living. And like I said a second ago, man, it is not an easy task. Really letting go and being your authentic, true self.
And letting success come, because as you say, we're actually afraid of our potential.
We are.
For various reasons. I mean, you could go into it, conditioned out of our truth, things like that. But ultimately, I think that thing of surrendering to our higher selves is it's the hardest thing, because you it's like a psychological death. You let go of the old you, and that you let the higher you come through. And that's a successive thing when you're being yourself for a living. And writing's a great tool for that.
I love how you mentioned energy. For me, even in the smallest things, like taking the book in your hands and reading just one line, you vibrate on a different level than the physical that we're in right now, and a whole lot of us are not aware of that when it happens, And I feel like a whole lot of individuals in society, in more than most cases, just chuck it away and do away with it and don't tap into it and surrender and let go, because it is a very difficult task to do, So now, but writing as a brand and as a company. So now I'm in this corporate space. I'm a leader now, and I've been working on myself and writing and taking the advice of Robin and Musi and all of those things. But now, how do I elevate my my level of not just leadership, but of course as an individual? Because you say that there's a story worth telling in all of us now. So I'm in the space of corporate, or whatever space I'm in, whether music or broadcasting and stuff like that. As a brand and as a company, how do I elevate now my brand or the company that I'm working for, using the power of writing in each of us?
So make your day-to-day job more impeccable. Your emails, your WhatsApp messages, all your correspondence, use it as a spiritual practice to be present, to learn something new, to refine your craft, to refine your grammar, to make sure that it's as perfect as you can. Perfect's not the best word, because it suggests perfectionism, and that's more of a barrier to creativity. But the word I like is impeccability. Give it your best effort for that moment, and if there are mistakes, also just let them go, because that's all part of the process. But if you then exemplify that, and then also suggest it for whatever position you're in. You could be a very junior person. You can lead from that position. Suggest, let's all improve our writing. Let's all do this properly. And then as you improve, you have a proposal that you want to put forward to your boss. Go and prepare it, think it through, read up on how to do that. Put this proposal to your boss, where you basically convince your boss of what they're wanting, but even higher, at a higher level to them. So you're saying to them, this is what you want, and I'm taking accountability and initiative here. And that's where you forge your way forward as a leader. And when you are in a technical leadership position, keep growing that skill, keep improving yourself and improving your role, because that's what, as you just said, like 3 or 4 times today, it influences people. Even if it's just by your charisma. See, now I've used another word, charisma, for energy, presence. There are all sorts of different words. And if you mix those words up, listening to someone who's articulate and eloquent, there are another 2 words, is magnetic. And you're constantly inspiring people. You're keeping them riveted to the moment.
Absolutely. I'm resonating here, man. Like, I feel like this should be a week-to-week thing that people equip themselves with. This is knowledge and information that people would be able to use in going about their day-to-day lives. So now, how would it support marketing or PR and business development now? Because I'm in the space and I'm working and stuff like that. How does the power of writing as a company or as a brand, as Musi Mist, would improve my PR or my marketing strategies and all of those things?
Well, the clarity, I think, is the one thing. You're constantly clearer and clearer. You know who you are, what you're doing, and your efficiency for achieving that is always improving. But one of the things I developed was, we mentioned it last time and the time before, was this process called Fully Booked. So taking companies through the change process, helping them achieve what they need to achieve. So my actual business is consulting and helping people and companies succeed on a whole new level. I use writing and I use the book process to do that. So I get companies to write a book together, and I get everybody onto the same page, if you'll excuse the pun. And everyone working on their writing behind the scenes. On the deepest level, their personal autobiographical writing. One step closer to the business would be writing a chapter for the book. Closer would be working on their day-to-day work. So whatever you're doing isn't just an arbitrary day in the middle of oblivion. It's actually a spiritual growth, it's a personal development journey, and it's a mutual collective growth process where that book is a convergence of everyone's best intelligence, and it then takes the personal brands involved and the collective brand to a whole new level. Write a book together. It's that simple and it's that challenging.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Both.
It does. It sounds very
Two
simple.
sides, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm trying to bring it back to home right here in studio, it would sound like it's a simple task that we would go into in terms of trying to share our own thoughts on a surface level, like you mentioned, firstly. But when you try to think of it in a complex way, it's not as easy as it sounds. Trying to encompass each of our thoughts and our emotions into one thing and making it very comprehensible and simple for someone who will pick it up and read it and make it resonate with them. I don't think it would be such an easy task as we might
make
perceive
it a
to
song,
be.
like as a singer, as a writer.
Yes.
Make it a song. If somebody says, "How are you?" don't just answer in an unconscious, repetitive way.
Yeah.
Actually answer. They may not even hang around to hear your answer, but you hear that answer. Say something poetic, say something musical, and appreciate your own art as you go.
Yeah.
And that starts to take. It takes pretty much immediately, but even if it doesn't or doesn't seem to, just carry on that path.
Yeah.
If you look at, you're talking about movies that you love, those are things that are written first and foremost. Pulp Fiction was a great movie from the 90s with Tarantino.
Yes.
He loved movies. He used to sit in video shops and watch all those movies and then write these scripts that turned into, to me, Pulp Fiction is his masterpiece, because if you look at the writing of that movie, it's impeccable. And then the acting just follows from that.
It elevates it.
It elevates.
Yeah.
Writing elevates.
Yeah.
And that's what I've got from today from you. Writing elevates.
It does, completely.
2 words. Writing
elevates. If there's nothing you can't take away from today, take away this. Writing elevates. And I love how you reference Pulp Fiction. And I think it might be a cliche, or it might sound cheesy, but the one thing that Samuel Jackson likes to say, the wrath of man before he kills someone in that thing. And then later, at the end of it, towards the end of the movie, he says, "You've not been saying this to sound bad, but I've never actually really thought about it. That what if I'm the righteous one and you're the one who is bad?" And he goes into an entire thing. I love it, man. So now, as you say that there is a story in each of us, right? And someone is going into trying to now write down all of the things that they go through, like we mentioned, and it's a process where you start off slowly, but you'll get into the feel of it, and it will be a regular thing, and it will come easy after a while. But now, what are some of the common barriers that you've found that a lot of people come across in terms of just going into the regular thing of writing on a day-to-day basis, whether at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day, the barriers and the mishaps that people come across when they want to go into the space of writing?
Well, I'd say the first one is misperception. People think that it's difficult. People think they're not writers. And another version of that is negative experiences around it. So that's why I say get out of that. Just be playful, be youthful, be like a child. Just express yourself in your way. And then once that flow is there, you can always come back and edit it. And that, I say, on the one hand, writing is a process of articulation, so that needs to be free and playful. And on the other side, and some writers will emphasize the other side, which is that it's actually about the editing. Just get the first lot out, but the real writing happens in that edit, the second and third draft. And that's where you are refining the writing itself, but you're refining the writer along the way. So when you write a book, when a company writes a book, they start at one place and they emerge a whole transformed brand on the other side. And the book is just a symbol of that journey of transformation. But the book then also stands for all time. I know people generally, each of my books usually goes through 5 sets of hands because it's very accessible. It speaks to everybody, like you say, it resonates.
Absolutely.
You just pick it up, and anywhere that you dip in, there's that resonance, and you've got to, as a writer, as an artist, you've got to put your heart and soul in there,
into it,
because that reaches out to the person, and then you need to polish it so that your craft doesn't get in the way of your message.
Yeah. You know, when you say that, putting your heart into even anything that you do, but because now we're talking in the context of writing, it really does come off.
Yes.
And I've seen it. And because I always try to bring things back to self, to the self first, you know. I think they know now here in studio that I'm very big on speaking in the self first, speaking the first person first,
yes.
you know, before trying to generalize or saying me and Robin, because Robin could have a different perspective and experience of the same thing that we're going through in that moment.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen people crying on stage when they're performing. And you yourself are moved by them crying.
Exactly.
And you wonder, why are you crying? Because you're performing for me. But it speaks to the song or the piece of art that they are performing in that moment. And it's above the physical that we're in now, you know. It's an energy thing, like you mentioned, whether you refer to it as charisma or energy or however, but it's something that is there. And most of it is stemmed from a piece of writing. So now, in terms of you know, the helping someone with their purpose to make better decisions in writing, how do I go about it? Because I know we've explored that it will improve your leadership skills, it will improve your spoken language, your vocabulary, and all of these aspects.
Business communication.
Absolutely, you know. So, but how does one find purpose now in writing their feelings and everything else that they go through?
If you just write, your purpose will start to reveal itself. That's the simple joy of it. And also, if you're doing your day-to-day work, precision is one thing. If you're a lawyer, if you're a salesperson, if you're a leader, precision really counts. You know, in a legal contract, just the presence or absence or position of a comma can completely change the meaning of what you're saying. And you know, these days everybody's very casual about it. Everyone looks past it.
Yeah.
But if you do things correctly, precisely, you are improving yourself, you're improving everyone you come into contact with, you're adding value to your customers, you're building the business you're in. So your purpose, even if you don't know what your purpose is, just know that you are here fulfilling it and use your craft to channel that purpose, and it will come through you. But purpose is basically about fulfilling your personal potential by being of service to humanity. So anything that does that, even if you're washing the floors, whenever I'm at gym or in shopping centers and I see people cleaning, I always stop and thank them. And I say, just go home and clean your own house, and you'll realize how important cleaning is.
Yeah.
And that job might be the lower rung of the hierarchy, but actually you can be the most impeccable person through that. You can be humble, you can be of service with very little recognition, and that can really take you places.
Yeah.
So wherever you are, make that work for you and use the challenges of that to become a better person, a better artist, a better communicator, a better leader, and that your purpose will just come through, and synchronicities will serve you.
Synergy, man.
Synergy, and be ready to respond.
Take the
gap.
I love it. I love it, Robin. I could listen to you the whole day, man. So just quickly in closure, for someone who is listening to us right now and is coming across you for the first time, just any advice that you would give, or perhaps an upcoming author, an upcoming editor, someone who's in the space of writing, any advice that you would give to them in terms of moving forward and improving themselves as they go on about their journey?
Well, make your phone your best friend. It can be the biggest distraction, but it can actually be the most empowering tool. I write even one-liners, and I used to take photographs just as a sort of, not even a hobby, not even formally a hobby, but when I got a smartphone, I had a whole lot of photographs of my travels, and then a whole lot of these one-liners that I write. You know, just these things that drop, like we've had 5 today along the way. Put them down. I always say to people, never throw any of your writing away. Keep it, honor it, because you write it and you're cathartic. Then you go back to it the next day and you can't even bear to read it. Then the next time you read it, you think, wow, this guy's actually on it, you know. So don't judge your writing. Trust your writing. Keep all of your writing. write short things. You can do posts on social media. You can make picture quotes where you combine your photographs with your one-liners.
Yeah.
Just constantly honor yourself, honor your voice, and honor your audience.
Yeah.
And have a book that you're writing along the way as well. Have a big backbone, a big spine holding it all together.
Yeah. I love how you say don't throw any piece of writing that you do. Because I've done that for a long time. And I think, you know, I also resonate and agree with what you said earlier in terms of not chasing for perfection, because now it speaks into, or it speaks to perfectionism, and we can never reach that, right? But I'm one of those people. I'm very particular and very, I'm forgetting the word, man. But detail oriented, right? And I'll go back to every little detail and try to fix it, because I feel like if I was able to recognize it and see it, Robin will probably also, Mwekete will probably also, TC will probably also. So I'm like that in that sense. But I've lost out on a lot of songs that I've written because I felt like, nah, man, this wasn't it. This wasn't it. And now that you mention it, as I'm thinking about it, having gone to them maybe years later, I could have found that it was a great song. And I could have improved on it even years later. But don't lose any piece of writing that you come across.
Another way to put that is the Greek mythology is that the muse is on the level of the gods, almost in an African sense, you know, like the ancestors are in the ether. And we are mortal, so we need to do the work on earth. We need to do the typing and the printing and the communicating. The goddess or the muse will inspire you if you align yourself with her. So she wakes you up at 3 a.m, get up and write. Because the next time she comes, she'll come to you because you were a good channel for that creativity.
And you received.
You received and you honored it. And that's why I say just keep your stuff. Not so much whether you're going to use it or not, because you may well go and find a little hook in one of those songs or some words that you use later on. But more so to be a clean channel for creativity, because the cleaner you are, the more obedient you are to the higher inspiration, the more that inspiration will choose you as the channel. And then you'll be super wealthy on every level, and people will say, how did you do it? And you say, I just trusted my voice and I developed my craft.
It was alignment. Essentially, it was alignment. I love it. I love it.
Writing is alignment.
Absolutely. And writing elevates.
Writing elevates. So elevate yourself and write.
Yeah.
Writing elevates, so elevate yourself and
write. I love that. You heard it first right here on the Vooka Breakfast Show. So someone wants to get in touch with you, either for themselves as a brand or for the company that they're working for. How do I go about reaching out to you as Robin?
Well, I was thinking about that actually after last time. And, you know, in the old days, if you were in the newspaper, you'd put your phone number there or your email. These days, we're all on social media. We're easy to find. So I'm Robin Wheeler, or Robin Being, as in being yourself for a living. You can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and social media. Just Google me and you'll find me.
You'll find Robin Wheeler. I love it.
Look forward to hearing from you.
Absolutely.
And helping.
Writing elevates. And you said?
So elevate yourself
and write.